who is a celebrity or public figure that no matter what they do, you can't help but love them. I still remember her appearance on The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. It was the hardest I had laughed in a long time. It was around the time Obama was first running for president with his red and blue hope poster. Betty White came out and announced to Craig that she was running for president too, and she had her campaign poster. It was her face in red and blue, and beneath it said "White Power." Danny DeVito was America's dad as far as I'm concerned. Real talk, Jaffa. Fuck what country burns our flag. Fuck. I threw my uniforms away as soon as I could and fully morphed into far-left veteran. I'll go to fucking war with any country who hurts Danny DeVito. He's the trash man, but he ain't trash, man. Met him at a con once. It was day 3 and he was wrapping up his 3rd hour-long session of signing for fans. No one was in the line and I was on the fence about paying for an autograph, but with no line I said what the hell. He was very nice and genuine and didn't try to rush me away. Since he was all done after that, I'm sure many would have been happy to sign a photo and shake my hand and call it the day. He did more than he had to. He left because he was going bald. I was worried when I saw him that he had cancer. Dug up an interview from not that long ago where he talked about why he left suddenly. Edit. Link for evidence https://www.buzzinainsider.com/bluesclues. Host Steve left the show because of balding. 2014-6. I met Keanu Reeves 5 days ago. I got roped into watching my 3-month-old niece while my brother got his hair cut. So there I am, sitting in the waiting area of a barbershop with my niece, and who walks in but Keanu fucking Reeves himself. I was nervous as shit, and just kept looking at him as he was sitting there with his phone and waited, but was too scared to say anything to him. Pretty soon my niece started crying, and I'm trying to quiet her down because I didn't want her to bother Keanu, but she wouldn't stop. Pretty soon he gets up and walks over. He started running his hands through her hair and asked what was wrong. I replied that she was probably hungry or something. So Keanu put down his phone, picked up my niece and lifted his shirt. He breastfed her right there in the middle of the barbershop. Chill guy, really nice about it. Would let him breastfeed my niece again. Guy has raised millions of dollars for restaurants during the pandemic. In addition to the very real triple D effect that businesses get from being on one of his shows. Plus, he lives a mostly vegetarian lifestyle apparently for sustainability reasons, but isn't a dick about it. Literally only negative thing I have ever heard in relation to him is that scathing meat review of his restaurant in NYC. Opt said no matter what they do. That means even if they do bad things you'll still love them. Keanu hasn't really done much bad, he usually does good things, which is why people like him. I'd imagine a more fitting answer would be someone who does occasionally some spicy things, but is so talented or charismatic that you forgive them over and over again. Anthony Bourdain. He's what I think of when I think of positive masculinity. Never angry or shouty or sweary like so many TV chefs, but a really positive and supporting view of the entire industry and all the roles in it. Some of my favorite clips of him are in little greasy spoon places enjoying a burger. I love Tony to death. His passing impacted me like no other celebrity death ever. Then watching the recent Roadrunner documentary, I learned something that genuinely hurt. Zach Samboni had been Tony's cinematographer and close friend since almost the beginning of his career. Then Tony managed to shoehorn in his toxic new girlfriend as a director for an episode. And when Zach, who knew the show's style better than anybody, disagreed with her on a shot, Tony fired her. Tony really seems to have let a rather toxic woman get her hooks into him, and that final year was a mess. It takes something special to be coming out of a career dive and climbing your way back up, playing a character that is taking a direct shot at Hollywood's approach to race in films. If he'd played that character a few years later, the entire point would have gone by the wayside and people would have roasted him alive because they didn't get it. Also, by all accounts, he is just a genuinely nice dude. Saw a clip from a show or something where he and his wife had to put up a handwritten "Do not let the cats out" sign on their door. And I have never related to any celebrity so much. Steve Irwin. The Irwins in general fucking love that family more than all of the royal families combined. Edit. Apparently they're not as cool as I thought they were, which makes no sense. How can a conservationist be a conservative as well? Do you want the coal mine and the climate crisis or not? Steve Irwin was a real inspiration to me when I was younger. Seeing this ultimate Chad running around poking vipers and groping gators and surviving everything with a smile on his face, having a great time and being super enthusiastic about all his near-death experiences, made me realize that anything was possible if you just had the guts to go for it. It was truly a sad day when he passed away. His family seems really cool and I'm glad that they're following in his footsteps. I think you would be happy to see that his love of nature got passed on to them. Matt Harvey. My dad and my sister and I were supposed to go to a game he was starting, but my dad passed away very suddenly a few days before it. This was in 2015 during the Mets run-up to the World Series, and my dad was like a kid on Christmas when we got him the tickets. Harvey's career has been in free fall for years now and a lot of Mets fans blame him for it, and/or are delighting in the schadenfreude. But I'll always have a soft spot for the guy who made my dad so happy during the last week of his life. There is no celebrity I would love unconditionally. If someone seems to be an amazing person but then does something horrible, they don't get out of jail free because of their prior PR. At that point it is celebrity worship, instead of a rational consideration of someone's actions. I mean, how many people would have answered Bill Cosby a few years ago? Tom Hanks. And what I like most about him is he definitely does have a bit of a mean streak. Unlike all these other people are posting who are practically goddamn saints, and you'll never have to wonder how you'd actually feel if they did something wrong, because you know they never would. I could actually see Tom Hanks being just a little bit of a dick to someone one time. It would undoubtedly be because he was having a really bad day and just hit his limit and wasn't entirely cordial to someone, and he'd absolutely apologize. But I could see it happening, and I would totally understand and not hold it against him if it did. Referencing that one video, I can't remember the details, but he was contractually obligated to appear in a promo for Sony or Samsung or someone and somehow got shafted on the whole thing, so he absolutely tanked it. It was hilarious, but you could tell he was legitimately pissed off and was actually being kind of a jerk. A deserved one, but he still had it in him. Found the video. Since I wrote no matter what they do, I kinda love Paul Walker. Even if I know he liked his girls very young. Dude, you could have any woman, why pick a 16 years/0? First when I read that I thought, well, that is sketchy at best, but 16 is legal where I live. Then I found out it isn't legal where he lived. Everyone knew and did nothing. Just wow. And still, he seemed like such a happy person who knew how to enjoy life. We share an interest in marine biology. He seemed like a good father. He had a big heart. I don't know if the engagement ring story that circles the internet is true, but if it is, that's really sweet. He personally went to help in Haiti. Did not just send money. I have huge respect for that. So, with very mixed feelings, my answer is Paul Walker. Unpopular opinion, but Taylor Swift and I have a super similar sense of humor, so I've always found her interviews funny. She's open about her insecurities, which I also relate to strongly. She got a bunch of shit from the media for being fake because of her award show surprised face, but people in the industry have vouched for her, and basically anyone who talks about meeting her in public or working with her professionally has given glowing praise. I just can't help but root for her. Louis C.K., insanely funny comedian whose career was ruined due to him jerking off in front of a consensual, but not really, because apparently his position of power made it hard for the woman to say no to. Spectator. It's tough because I want to support females being able to come forward when sexually assaulted, and I also want to support my favorite comedian. I guess it's the same relationship I have with Sheik Phil 8. Tuomas Holopainen. Not really a celebrity, but he is the leader of the biggest symphonic metal band in Finland. He composes beautiful music that has helped me through a lot of tough times, and I'm thankful for that. He also inspired me to pick up piano. which has been a lot of fun. Keanu Reeves, dude is fantastic, lovely, caring, wonderful, humble man. Among other things, he waited in line in the rain with the rest of the crew to get into the wrap party for John Wick. Even though he would have been ushered to the front of the line, he is by a true gem. I know a lot of people got hate for the man, but honestly Kanye West, I used to be a massive stan, sadly, best term here, for easy, and would jump to his defense over anything. You just don't understand who he is. He is going through a rough time. Name one genius that ain't crazy. The works. Now, years later and after growing up a bit, I no longer have just a deep need to defend him. I enjoy his music and I do think he is one of the most talented artists of all time. If you disagree, I understand. But no one can deny how absolutely ingrained he has become in hip-hop as a whole. Every time he does something fucking stupid, I am annoyed about it, but always seem to say well if it ain't Mr. Pink-ass Polo with the fucking backpack in the news yet again, and just smile knowing that he is still making history ... even when it's not the best news. Anyway, yo peep donga, shit slapped, rough around the edges, but I was pleased. I know I shouldn't, but Elon Musk, for some reason, even though I know he's eccentric, a bit crazy, and can be a real piece of shit sometimes, I can't help but support him. I am a huge fan of spaceflight and aerospace engineering, and with all of his companies being right up my alley, and him being, relatively, in touch with younger generations, I can't help but smile when I think about him. Robert Downey Jr. I went to the Teen Choice Awards, met a lot of celebrities, Paris, Britney, Adam Sandler, but of all of them, Robert Downey Jr., when I met him, stood up from his seat, looked me in the eye, shook my hand and told me it was a pleasure to meet me, an absolute gentleman, and a real human. There's a few, but Tom Hanks has a reputation of being one of the nicest guys in the business. He has been known to stop and say hi to people while jogging. There's a great moment captured on tape of him jogging in New York, stumbling upon a photographer shooting engagement, wedding pictures, and taking photos with the couple. Just a class act all around. Shaq also has a reputation of being very good to people, and I have a personal story of witnessing his goodness. I was at a celebrity basketball game as a fan. Kid runs across the court to see Shaq, literally sits courtside with Shaq the whole game, chats with him, and gives the kid an and waves over his family to meet them. It was so cute. He gestured to the kid at one point at the game, thought he was pointing at me and he waved back, "No, not you dude." This thread needs a dash of gritty honesty. Kevin Spacey. I hate what he did. He traumatized and sexually assaulted innocent and vulnerable people. But I still love him, maybe not as a person but as an actor, which I would argue actors almost always are even off stage. I like how fucked up he is. Truth is that I always had a deep suspicion that he was manipulative and that he lacked a real moral compass. Many of his roles are of similar characters. It just all fits so perfectly now. It's character development to the max really. Did you see that cryptic Christmas video? Incredible. And you know what? He was right. He never played by the rules and I did love him for it. Being a pedo is really not the flavor of rule breaking I'd like to see. But you asked. And I love him. Best case scenario, he is on house arrest permanently and is allowed to act while proceeds going to rain. Neil deGrasse Tyson. A lot of people don't like him for being a walking well actually. Me more that one time he interrupted King Joe Rogan, but I seriously love how dorky he is and how much passion he has for teaching science. I truly think he will go down in the history books as one of the most influential folks of our time. Also his Star Talk podcast is always good, especially when the comedians on there are hitting the mark with the comedy and asking good questions to Tyson. I don't get why all the slightly controversial people get downvoted. The questions kinda of implies that it should be a person you don't always agree with, no matter what they do. How is Tom Hanks or Dolly Parton a good answer to this question? They never did anything wrong, so the whole no matter what they do point is unanswered. At that point you can just ask which celebrities Reddit likes and get the same answers as always. I agree with Kanye as a choice. He said some stuff that I definitely see differently, but I still like the guy for his music and for the fact that he had every opportunity to be boring and he didn't. I was working in a restaurant very close to the Manchester Arena back when it was bombed during her concert. Shook the whole city up for a long time, but I've always admired how she was afterwards. Visiting fan in hospital. She didn't need to do that. And talking about her experience of PTSD months down the line when the raw scars were healing was positive as well. Also a coward attacking a concert where most of the attendees were mostly teens and gay men seemed in a city that is so young and inclusive seemed like an attack on the city itself, and she was sort of adopted as an honorary monk because of that. The only answer should be nobody. First, you don't know enough to love them in the first place, but most of the people listed here are actors. What do they do for a living? They pretend to be someone else. So while their public persona match their actual personality, it's also very plausible that they're assholes behind closed doors. Celebrity worship, even of Keanu and Danny DeVito, is a waste of time. Definitely none. Unconditional love for any celeb is just stupid. However, can overlook more in some cases if I like the celeb. Like I don't like how Kevin Spacey was treated without ever seeing trial or having any proof against him, just based on someone else's decade-old memory, and they ruin House of Cards because of it. Again, I get some hell for this one, but Bill Cosby. So, let me explain. Growing up as a kid, Bill did quite a bit for kids, especially black kids, from Aesop fables to telling black history, and of course, The Bill Cosby Show set many standards and examples of how to live a proper life. Of course, his real life was closer to BoJack Horseman, and nothing can excuse his sexual assaults on women. He was still a good role model for millions of kids, especially the ones who had no one to look up to. Do I love for the positives in the examples he set? Of course, but can I respect him for how he acted behind the scenes? No. Of course not. Keanu Reeves every day of the week. He could be filthy rich living in a mansion somewhere, and yet he donates most of the money he makes from movies and lives a relatively simple lifestyle. I've never met him in person, but he sounds like a down-to-earth and nice guy. I've also heard that he is commonly spotted taking public transportation where he lives instead of private vehicles, which makes him very relatable. Honestly, were I in his position monetarily, I'm not sure I would be quite so altruistic, but he certainly inspires me to be. Donald Trump. So he cheated on all of his wives, and married his mistress, and he raped a couple of dozen women, and a little girl, and cheated on his taxes, and committed fraud with his charity, and politicized the global pandemic so that hundreds of thousands of people would die needlessly, and abused his power as president to try and extort favors from a foreign power, and then tried to overturn the lawful results of a federal election, then incited a treasonous attack on duly elected senators and congressmen for upholding the laws of the Constitution and the country. That little rapscallion. Let's give him another 4 years. I feel like people are misunderstanding the question. Everyone's just giving answers for people they love based on what they do. The question to me implies that it should be someone who occasionally does bad things, but you can't help but forgive them or excuse their behavior because they are so talented or charismatic. Kane Hodder, after a filming of a Friday the 13th, The New Blood, he offered to show the interviewers how he did the fire stunt, but it went wrong and left him with some second and third degree burns on his body. After he recovered, he went back to the screen and wasn't bothered doing stunts with fire. He visits the hospital that helped treat his burns and meets burn victims and talks with them. He looked like a tough guy, but has a pretty wicked dude in a teddy bear. If you ask him to strangle you at one of his meetups, he does it gently, but you can still feel him put some strength behind it. Has good buddies with another cool guy, Robot England. Trey Parker. See, the adoration is so bad, I broke the rules, and used an emoji. No, but seriously, I need to get over this guy. My love for him is unnatural. Help me break up with him. Do your worst. Break my rose-colored glasses. Tongue.